or rewind the hand of the clock at this juncture. No matter how critical or the criticisms which you put on the table here, it's not going to change the fact whether they went wrong or not. We should be looking on how we should look. It's true that
okay, so how should we move forward?
Yeah. We were talking about the Southern Cameroon crisis. We all know today it is referred to the Foumban conference, which I think the representatives, which Senior Barrister Ashu did mention, to the best of his knowledge, they were not mandated. If they were not mandated to represent the people, good and fine, but it all happened. There's nothing we can do about it. We should be looking how we should. My humble opinion here is, I am appealing to President Pobia, the head of state, who is the father of this nation.
And your party chairman.
Yeah, yes, my party chairman. At this juncture, what legacy is it putting in place now so that the next generational regime or Cameroonians should be talking about his achievements, which I know one of his millennium goals is talking about the 2035 emergency achievement of Cameroon. That's what we should be talking about. Secondly, looking on how we should put to a ceasefire. I'm talking about the killings, the enormous killings, which it hurts.
Okay.
It really hurts.
Coming back to you.
Yeah, before you take over the mic, I've said several times on this platform that I strongly believe, I'm convicted, that by August we'll be receiving an August guest, which will manifest miraculously for a total ceasefire in Southern Cameroon crisis.
Okay.
Yes, that is what we should. That is our greatest cry of today.
I want to maybe you want to be asking your barrister for coming to Barrister about what he just said, that we are crying over spilled milk and that we should be looking for a way forward. But how do we look for a way forward? You guys are legal minds. How do we look for a way forward without understanding the context in which the Foumban conference actually laid the foundation? Because we cannot be saying that we're crying over spilled milk.
No, you say no. Really, it's even being modest by saying spilled milk. To me, the milk was washed away a long time ago, so you can't even care about it. But you see, if you notice, Southern Cameroon at that time, as I say, was attached to a House of Assembly in Nigeria, which meant, as we manifested our intention not to join Nigeria by the 11th February period 1961, there was some sort of a void. There was a legal void between the time the plebiscite occurred and the time the Union Jack was brought down. The Union Jack was brought down on the 1st of October 1961. So it means from February 1961, 11 February 1961 to 1st October 1961, the British were still full in command because under the trusteeship. Yes. So if they were supposed to be negotiations, it was to be either the full supervision of the British or the British themselves through the Nigerians. They do the negotiations. But it didn't happen that way. Okay, we had a decentralized unit of management of Southern Cameroon at that time. It continued after the plebiscite as if nothing happened. The same system continued. But whatever was supposed to be decided by that group of people ruling at that time, between that February 11 to 1st of October, they were supposed to have the signature of the British. They never did, and never had. And that is why I believe strongly that to go across this illegality, we need to have that referendum of 1972.
So we need to,
which became a decision of the people. No matter how you consider the referendum, legal, illegal, legitimate.
So we should start from the 1972.
To me, that is when our union actually was given some rebirth. Because don't forget, we were separated by the Simon Agreement of 1999. As we got separated, that document up to date has not been resigned yet. And if you notice, the demarcation that was determined on that date, when the German Cameroon was divided by French and British, it is still being used to the present date. Nobody talking anything about it. So, do we want to go to legitimacy? We should start in 1919 with the Simon Agreement. That is the Secretary of State in charge of colonization of Britain, that of Britain and that of France. And when they made that agreement, the League of Nations never signed it. The United Nations never signed it. But still, on the contrary, placed Cameroons, that is Northern Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, and La Republic Cameroon, in the same type of control by the Western powers, who now brought in their Western languages to mesmerize us, to divide us, and to make us look as if we are two different people. But in any case, I'm a legal mind. I have to look at legality. I cannot go to something without going to legality. Who gave a mandate to Foncha, Muna, Mbile, and the rest to go to Foumban to talk on their behalf? To me, I see that void.
Is that not why?
So because of that void, that's why I say, if you notice in our society, Southern Cameroon society, go to the AAC1, it's a group of people. Go to the AAC2, it's a group of people. Go to the formation of SDF, it's a group of people. The only structure, to me, that has succeeded is the SDF that finally went back to the people and had their legitimacy and had their votes. All the others, is that, look, we just decide, everybody has to accept and will follow. And that is why we have that problem today. In our minds, it is difficult for us to contain certain facts because of that illegality between 11 February 1961 and 1st of October.
Now, with the issue of illegality,
I think that I want to disagree with Barrister Ashu, because you know, when you do elections, there is no way that the results are implemented on the same date of the ballot. The head of state of this country, for example, is voted, and it takes a period of time before he's installed, before he takes the oath. He doesn't take oath the same day that the election, the ballots are cast.
They send a petition.
Yeah. So what are you suggesting? That because the head of state is elected on a certain day and it takes about 3 months for him to take oath, that is a legal void? I don't think so. I think that the 11th of February was the day of the vote. The day that this vote was to take effect was the 1st of October.
1st October, because
so Southern Cameroons continued to be managed as it was managed before the plebiscite. The same people who managed continued in office. They did not step down until the date when the Union Jack came down. And so I think that it's not correct to suggest that there was a legal void. There was no legal void. And secondly,
but he is saying that in terms of the legal void is the people's representative.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. At that time, there was a small West Cameroon government, Southern Cameroon's government. There was a small government. And that I think that is the capacity in which Foncha went to Foumban.
It was not a country. It was a decentralized unit.
It was not.
He said that a country that already has independence is coming to talk with a country that doesn't have independence. Therefore, it's supposed to be managed by, maybe the British are supposed to lead that education.
Listen, I think that the British were not and ought not to have been part of that process. For one reason, it was not the British who were negotiating. It is the people of Southern Cameroons. And at that time, who had the mandate of the people of Southern Cameroons? There was a government led by Foncha. So he had the capacity. I think that is even beside the point. That's even beside the point. The critical issue is that in Foumban, the people resolve, even if it was a bad agreement, but they resolved that we should function on the basis of a federal constitution. And there was a clause in that constitution, which my learned friend will agree, which insisted that the federal structure, that federal nature, that provision should not be amended. Now, and my learned friend believes that this country, the basis of this country started in 1972. I think that 1972 is the biggest fraud, constitutional fraud, that has ever happened in any part of Africa. It's the biggest constitutional fraud.
He's saying that to him that seemingly may be the only basis.
That is why I'm trying to counter that it is the biggest constitutional fraud, gigantic constitutional fraud, because the people of La République du Cameroun did not vote to join Southern Cameroons. They did not vote. So if they wanted to suppress the federal structure of the country, that decision should have been left with the Southern Cameroonians who had voted to join. Whether now they want to suppress, I don't know if you're getting the point.
Yeah.
Now, by allowing us, the whole country, to vote, and then it was to be by majority decision, when Southern Cameroon, by its own very component, its own composition, was a minority. So it was obvious. It was obvious. Now, what happened between 1961 and 1972? I think that President Biya has been very honest when he said in the Paris Peace,
with Mo Ibrahim,
yes, that all along there had been a process of assimilation and a hidden agenda of assimilation. And I think that that is where we are today. So that even at Foumban, when they even agreed on the federal constitution, they did so with some other thinking behind there. They knew that it was just a way to hoodwink people along. They knew that by 72, it was a gradual process. Because you discover that by 66 even, 1966, political pluralism had been suppressed. Those were the technical steps.
That was when we had the most draconian law which was put in place.
So you see that it was, Mr. Biya has you agree with me, but when he said that there was this agenda, I don't think that he limited it to when he took power in 82. This agenda had been there from the inception. You see,
they were played.
No, just like you, as we are being played today.
No, not today.
No, even today we are being played.
No.
But the most important thing is that I am not bound to remain a slave because my father sold me in slavery. I'm not bound to remain a slave.
That's too much slavery.
Yes.
Oh.
What I'm saying is that if they made an error and we found ourselves where we are not bound to stay there. We are bound to move ahead. And so we have to break this chain. And we are going to break it. And I think that, for me, you just made reference to the crisis.
Yes, because Mr. Munga said a while ago that there's no need crying over spirit. When a senior barrister also said the milk has already been washed away. But that's why I'm coming that we cannot talk about the fact that we should not cry, because the basis of this crisis is on Foumban conference and the plebiscite.
You see, that is what I was going to say. That when they say that it's spilled milk or the milk has even been washed away, it's a certain language that can incite people. It is this thinking that has brought us to where we are today. Because a group of people thought that once we had Foumban has passed, it has passed. No. The whole purpose of Foumban was to recognize that there are two peoples. That is the basis of Foumban, that there are two peoples. And if there is a systematic policy to erase the identity of one part, that is where the conflict sets in. Because you will agree with me that all these things you see, the crisis in Southern Cameroon, it is a crisis of identity. People are struggling to reassert their existence as a people. And until that fact is accepted, we will not come out of this shit. Until that fact is accepted.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me take some few messages. Those of you watching us online on Facebook, we want to say happy Sunday to all of you. Good day to you all. Jean from Tico, please, sir. Is it in the Foumban conference? Is it true that in the Foumban conference we had we or yes was used to confuse our grandparents? I'm not sure that was the Foumban conference. I'm sure that was the referendum, 1972 referendum. And this other one say happy Sunday to you all, Vanessa. I think Barrister Ashu Julius has made my day. This is the first time I'm seeing him objective as possible to say that there was no legality. Then he is a Southern Cameroonian by blood. This other read says happy Sunday to you, great program. Barrister Ashu has changed. I think there are a lot of messages, but we'll not take some of the messages now. Let me come back to you.
That's on my road. That's on the road.
Barrister Ashu just said there was no legality, that the people who represented us had no legality to represent us, which Barrister Nkiatu said no, that they had legality. Mr. Mungwa, maybe you want to react to what the legal minds have been saying here?
Yes, of course. It is becoming quite interesting when I hear televiewers saying Barrister Ashu is quite objective. I think we found ourselves on the platform here to be realistic and be honest to Cameroonians and beyond. Some of us who happen to have stretched further in carrying analytical research, we cannot wave history away.
Yes.
There's no way.
So are you taking back your statement that we should not care about
I am not taking back my statement. No, no way. I won't. When I say we cry over spill milk, I still insist and I emphasize on that statement. In which perspective do I make this statement? Like Barrister Kia just said, it's kind of excitement where I use that statement. I don't see any excitement in it. The reality and the truth about it is that it was a Waterloo, it was a fiasco, it was a failure. Let's acknowledge the fact. What we're talking now, we're talking history. We're talking bygones. And what's the way forward? I mean, our representatives, elders, seniors at the time, they did their best in their capacity to see how they could get the way. Ndele himself was of the opinion of the stay within the French governance in Cameroon. John Gold-Foncha was of the opinion, no, I think Ndele wanted Southern Cameroon to shift to Nigeria, point of correction. And John Gold-Foncha insisted about remaining within La Republique. And with my few analytical research, honestly speaking, if you can still search now and do some references, Bamenda city or town, which we talk now, was invaded by Nigerians, and the truth is that yes, you find the traders who were in the Bamenda main market. Once you pass, it's a policy which existed at the period we're talking about. When you pass around, you do eye shopping.
The plebiscite.
Yes, you can do eye shopping. You can do eye shopping. You do eye shopping, but you have no right to stretch your hand to touch any good of any Nigeria. Once you it's a touch and carry. Whether you have money in your pocket or not, you are obliged to pay and take away that commodity. Yes, or you're beaten and then jailed. So I see of the opinion whether Foncha was wrong or right at that juncture, but when you look at some of those tortures which our fathers and the elderly people were undergoing at that moment, there was just no reason why Foncha could have driven Southern Cameroon.
No, we are not looking at the driven nature. What we are looking at is, okay, we are basing now on the content of Foumban. There was no content of Foumban because in Foumban we were told that they resulted that they will move to the Yaoundé Tripartite Conference in 1961, that is in August, which we had Christopher S. Eastwood from the British who led he led the British delegation, and Foncha led that of Southern Cameroon. And still at the Yaoundé Tripartite Conference, there was not still that mutual agreement that was reached at in terms of the federal constitution, because it was not ratified by the federal assembly, because there was a clause here that states that the federal constitution will go operational on 1st of October 1961, and that must be ratified by the federal assembly, which has to ratify that constitution. But that was not the case.
Yes, coming back to your references and analysis, no consensus was arrived at. True or false?
You should answer that. So because I've said no consensus.
Of course, no consensus.
So are you agreeing with the guys who are saying that? But do we need to keep hanging on it? Let me ask. No. I'm making time on that. So the basis of this crisis in North and Southwest is not because of what you say we should not hang on it. Yeah, of course it is referred to that, good and fine. But at this juncture, what is the way forward? What solutions should we bring? What measures should we look in order to ameliorate? Let me ask you again the question. Maybe Barrister may want to add, because Barrister confirmed the fact that there was no legality in those who were supposed to represent the Southern Cameroonians at the level of the Foumban Conference, and which moved over, the illegality moved to the Yaoundé Tripartite Conference in August 1961, and the illegality led to the 1972 referendum, and which we are still talking about the same illegality. And so does it mean that those who are advocating and stating that there was no union treaty, that nothing was done, they still have another premise to hang on the federal constitution? Yeah, Jarvis, please, Barrister, before Barrister comes in, I just want to appeal that at this juncture, so far, yeah, they did
their utmost best, and so far we're talking about 50, 60 years ago, and where we are hanging here now, what's the legacy we're putting in place now in order to move forward their failure or achievers at that in 1972 or 61? What are we doing? We should be talking about our contributions and looking how we can move Cameroon forward, so that the generations behind should see a generational change and a movement. Yes.
You would agree that you cannot be thinking how to move forward without looking where you're coming from.
That's true, Barrister.
Yes.
History cannot be way behind.
Yes. So
history was mixed past, and from history we can now correct ourselves and we forge ahead.
You know, what I think very strongly is that with reference to the assertion that there was no union treaty, and so the supposed union between Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon does not stand. But you want to imagine that in 1961, after the plebiscite, President Ahmadu Ahidjo filed a case with the International Court of Justice.
UN Assembly.
He filed a case.
Yes.
He filed a case with the ICJ.
Yeah, sorry. I think we're not taking the mic from Barrister Julius.
There will be time. There's no time.
Okay.
There was a case which Ahidjo filed, challenging the outcome of the plebiscite in which the other part voted to join Nigeria. Because we seem to be thinking that this whole thing is just the plebiscite of 61 is just Southern Cameroon that was involved. There was nothing British.
There was another case of Northern
British Cameroon. There was Northern British Cameroon. There was Southern British Southern Cameroon, British Northern Cameroons. Now Ahidjo had contested the outcome of the plebiscite result in which the British Northern Cameroon voted to join Nigeria, and the ICJ ruled that decision was binding. Now, when you interpret it from a legal perspective, when you give that judgment of the ICJ illegal, you then say that if the ICJ can rule that the plebiscite outcome was binding for British Northern Cameroons, you could apply that the same interpretation for the plebiscite outcome of British Southern Cameroons. So that is to say that whether there was a union treaty or not, it doesn't really make sense. I think that what is crucial is the fact that people voted. Whether they voted rightly or they voted wrongly, it's a topic of discussion for some other time. There was a vote.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yes.
That's why I was saying in 1972, whether rightly or wrongly,
yes,
people voted. In 1972,
yeah,
and up to date, nobody has challenged the legality of that referendum. We always say and talk about
challenge it where?
Go to court. Ahidjo went to where?
So you
see.
Yes,
wait,
yes,
let me learn.
Yes, yes.
Let me. You yourself have quoted Ahidjo.
Yes.
In that, if you read the judgment very well,
yes,
the General Assembly of the United Nations refused to entertain the case on the basis of an exception that they were incompetent.
yes.
They never decided on the substratum of the matter.
It went to the
substantive issue was never decided upon up to date. The substantive issue, whether it was legal to make the plebiscite or not, was not entertained up to date. If you check the judgment.
Yeah.
Well, you see, what I'm saying is that yes, politics is a game. I will not expect Ahidjo to come and see a country like Southern Cameroon and having the possibility of grabbing it, I will not grab. If it's you, you do the same. But you see, it's a matter of using the psychology of the people at that time to get what you want. But we see, we ourselves went there, like we usually say, the thought is like, they like that to get the boxing ring, but they have very short hands. So when they're very short hands, and that's why they reach our box. The reach of our arms never could touch the other party, and that was suffering. That's why I say we'll be making that mistake over and over, and we'll still making it.
Let me Ashu,
briefly, so I'll take our guest who is on standby.
Let me just make one clarification. To say that nobody has ever challenged the outcome of the referendum is not very true, because you remember that you don't need the whole country, all the people of Southern Cameroon to go to court to challenge that. You remember the case that was filed in Banjul before the African Commission by Gwangumne and a handful of other people and Scapo. The basis of that decision, of that case, if you look at the facts, you look at the decision, was that they believed that 1972 referendum was a fraud. That was the whole thing they argued. And that from 1972 onwards, there had been this aggressive policy of assimilation, suppressing all the economic viability, strength of southern Cameroons in favor of the French-speaking part and all those things. And the court, the African Commission, made a recommendation.
Agree. I do the judgment. Yes. That was right.
So I think that...
But who sent them? Did you on their behalf or mine? You see, that's what I'm talking about.
They don't need to get your vote.
That is why executing is a problem, because they went on their own. You see, that's what I'm saying. All you need to do is
Barrister. That's
my problem.
Senior Barrister Ashu, but Senior Barrister Ashu, last time in this panel you said a Cameroonian has a right to take a government to court.
Yes, when it comes to constitutionality. Challenge the constitutionality.
So it's the same thing he's saying.
I'm saying that no. I don't need to come to you and put a ballot, say, give me mandate to go and file a case.
That's what he's saying.
So by so doing, it is you say this constitution, this rule of the constitution does not apply to me. You cannot say it don't apply to we, and you say me.
But maybe the
problem is that you see, that's why I say we have to be Democrats. If you want to represent the people, get their mandate. When once you go on a lone voyage, bear the consequences alone. But you will not force it on the people. You will not push it down the
Senior Barrister Ashu,
no matter how good it is.
Last week, when we I think 2 weeks ago, when we talked about the context of decentralization, he raised the issue that if a citizen feel like it's not moving well or something is wrong, a citizen can take the state to court.
Yes, sure.
So the same citizens who sat under the premise of we said we decided, because if there are 2 or 3, they are Southern Cameroonians.
They didn't even say.
So the premise of we has to be.
My problem is I, not we. You see, when you go for I,
or maybe he should learn and tell us what happened.
Because if you look at the parties, the way the parties were constituted, they did not say that. They are speaking for Barrister Ashu, Julius, and some other people. Because
someone just decided to speak for me.
No, Barrister Ashu, Julius sitting here, his logical sequence is never disconnected from his political platform. It's never disconnected. And that is what you will want to see, that all the people who constitute themselves as the plaintiff in that case, none of them was a CPDM militant. None of them was a CPDM militant.
Who told you that?
I'm telling you from factual, none of them was a CPDM militant. Rather, the state sent people there, of course from CPDM background, to go and argue that it was a case. And the outcome was clear. But what we are trying to say is that there is no time. There is what you call public interest litigation. When you're doing public interest litigation, you don't necessarily need to go and hold a rally or hold some election for people to endorse you to give you that capacity. If you are part of the community that is affected, you have a right. Now, and that is interesting to note that at the time that action was filed, the government sponsored another team of people led by Isaac Oben, to go to Banjul and say they wanted to withdraw the case and come and discuss. And the government were very active talking with those people at the time. Those people had the mandate from where? So you see,
the government, huh?
Yeah, no. The government. You see, we are discussing things.
Disciplinary and legality.
To appoint a group of people to discuss.
It's the government. We voted it.
That is the sense of deception.
But the parliament did not sit to talk about that, because the parliament
deception, lies, fraud, as if everybody was stupid.
Barrister Ashu.
Everybody is so stupid that they can be deceived.
Barrister Ashu.
Lies and they follow.
Barrister Ashu.
I don't agree.
No, Barrister Ashu. What I want to ask from somebody who militates very strongly in the party that you belong, have you heard of any motion, given the current crisis in this country, in parliament by the CPDM party trying to look for ways to solve this problem?
Yeah,
first of all,
no, those are the people that we have who have been elected, right?
Who have the mandate?
Yeah, who have the mandate?
No, of course.
So if they don't discuss it,
Belamoki said it was on TV. He filed a motion on TV. What are you talking about?
No, when
Belamoki on CPDM, Chief Bukete has filed motions on TV. All of us are
the motion, but the motion, let's take on someone who is on Skype on standby who will come in. Let him tell us. Let him tell us what. Yes. So let's get you. Let's get you. Hello. It seems like we have a connection issue there. Are you with us? Maybe Barrister, why he says maybe you want to react briefly.
Yeah, you see, we always get ourselves wrong when we mix up party issues with important discussions like this. Yeah. It's just because I feel all of us don't have the same level of information on certain issues. But I don't want to go to party politics. But in any case, I'm a realist. I feel when we want to do things, I feel to say, look, this is what we have. What do we do about it? I didn't bring in CBDM here. You're bringing it down. But that is, you see, those are the type of things, on the contrary, that excites, as you say, using your words. We don't do that. But in any case, CBDM or no CBDM, what I know, the topic I came here for was on the Foumban conference, which I say, well, like it or not, it was a party, as if I was invited to a party to go and eat and drink and dance, and it came out and went away. At that point in time, I am very certain that Aejo saw the illegality and benefited from it, and used and mesmerized all these guys, played their political egos, and had what he had. I don't blame Aejo for that. That is politics. He never killed anybody. He never forced anybody. And don't forget that by that time we were going to Foumban conference, it was at the height of the Maquisard War. That time. It was bad in that area, so I don't know how they managed to go there and came back without any problem. There was war in that area, the western region, right to Foumban at that time. But, and you see, tell me, what type of conference is this that there's no preparatory meeting? There was no preparatory meeting.
Yeah, on the Foumban conference.
Yes, by both parties. They sent emissaries to go and sit down first of all. They talked out the main points. Before calling in the so-called government to come and sit down and talk, they were known. Because to me, I just saw that void. I just saw the illegality and used it. But you see, at that time, we didn't catch it. It took a lot of time for some of us, or let me say, for some of us to catch it. That is what happened. And I don't blame him. I will not blame him because President Biya said it clearly that they tried to do. He said joining by integration. What they went in for, while we were going in for joining by having to talk with our brothers, they were going in for joining with integration. And that's what we're doing till President Biya said it recently. Okay. Which means that there has to be a halt about that method. Okay. And some other method is going to come into place. I want to come. Let me learn right now. Right now, we are on decentralization. Okay. Southern Cameroon was decentralized at that time.
Let's get back on Skype and get what a friend has to, his own contribution.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jervis and my fellow panelists. So I'd like to thank Mr. Jervis for having me on this panel. Here is the thing. I've been listening to all the barristers, and there's been a lot of historical rewritings and everything. I mean, for the most part, historians have written about this, experts have written about all the historical aspects that went down in the Foumban conference. I'm talking about Professor Victor Julius, Professor Anyangwe, and the lots of others. We know that multiple things went wrong. I mean, everyone is doing the historical rewritings and the legal aspects of those things. What actually went wrong is that we had external factors. Of course, we can talk about the external factors leading to the Foumban conference. We know about the role that the Cold War played in the whole leading up to the plebiscite. We know the role the French government played and the British government. So those are the external factors. But in terms of what went wrong with the internal players, we know that the PM, John Guffoncha, had the draft constitution, and he was supposed to revise that with his delegates. But we know what happened. That didn't happen, and also the stalling that the President Aejo had to carry out. the delegates didn't have enough time to go through the constitution. I think that they were given 3 days, the Southern Cameroon's delegate. And so we have all of this. And I think it is very important for us to note that in as much as all of these illegalities happened, and some resolutions were reached at the Foumban conference, or after the Foumban conference, in terms of the flag, the star, and then the anthem and all of those things. And later on, the tripartite conference that took place, there was one very important point that was supposed to be mentioned. At the tripartite conference, it was stated that any proposal for the revision of the present constitution, that is the federal constitution, which impairs the unity and the integrity of the federation, shall be inadmissible, and proposals for the revision shall be adopted by a simple majority vote of members of the Federal Assembly, provided that such majority includes a majority representative of each of the federated states. So either the majority from the Southern Cameroons or from West Cameroon or East Cameroon. So this was what was agreed at the tripartite conference. And so the 1972 referendum that was carried out by Aijo, indeed, that was illegal. It was not supposed to happen. And so having had that, those are the reality. That is what we have. That is what we face now. And so, as someone was saying, the way forward is for us to revisit that's the crux of the matter. The problem at the foundation of it, the problem was changing that federal structure. So I would like to say, moving forward, I would like to subscribe to the opinion of I think Dr. Nick Wanyamu talks about the Confederacy. In order for us to have a sustainable, those who subscribe to a united and a sustainable Cameroon, it is very important that we go back to the Confederacy principle, which is the principle that was, even in pre-colonial Africa, there was a principle of Confederacy where consensus was reached.
Maybe coming back to you, let's take a few messages. Barrister Evin Nyonga Banmie, excuse me, Nyonga Mia from Buya, right? He says the way forward with this crisis in Northwest and Southwest is to get back to the people of the Southern Cameroons through a free, informed and democratic process for them to decide a referendum like the comprehensive peace agreement that was signed by the Sudan and the Republic of Sudan, which has to be done in the presence of the United Nations. Maybe you agree with him?
I like legality in a democracy. I don't like where a group of people sit down and decide issues for you and me. I like to participate. And the way to participate is by voting. I agree with that guy, with my learned colleague, that if we need to decide on certain issues, it should be legitimate in the sense that we go to the people and ask them what they want, not dictate on the people what we want. But you see, this tripartite, as he's talking, the tripartite of the 60s.
Because the tripartite was
another tripartite in 1992.
Yes.
That decided on the constitution in 1996. There was another tripartite. Don't forget that. But if you notice why it has been failing, it is because it is something from a group of people and not from all the people.
But
or the majority of the people.
I think that
maybe you react to this.
Yes.
Justice Aya Paul Abine stated that the 1996 Constitution it was not a new constitution, but it was a revision of the constitution which had been based on false premise.
Yeah,
till date.
I think even the constitution we have today, if you look at it, when it is cited as the 1972 amended constitution of 1972. So, but whatever that means, for me, it's not the issue. What is important, and I think that Barrister Nyombami has captured it properly, that is where we have the problem, in which I was saying before, that if there was supposed to be a referendum in 72, it was only the people of Southern Cameroon that should have been given the right to vote, because it affected them. And so even today, to decide what the way forward, it's so easy. Through a referendum debate, you know that has been demanded severally. When I was a young schoolboy, I was in university at the time, around 92, there was something that we did. We collated votes. People were signing their names and marking yes or no, some kind of signature referendum. It was organized by AAC people at the time. Visha. He coordinated, and you could see the reflection of people at the time. Well, you can say that at that time there was no person supervising.
With a group of people.
Yes, you can say there was no. But I think that the way out of this, whatever that there was Foumban, there was no Foumban, is that Southern Cameroonians should be given the opportunity to decide what they want for themselves, whether they want to even stay as part of this country or not, whether they want to move out completely. I said it the last time, that in whatever constitutional framework we will have in this country, there should be that clause where the people of Southern Cameroons will always have the right to determine, maybe in 10, 15 years, whether they want to remain part of the union. It is something that can work. Because if you know that you have the right to leave, if you know that you can exercise it, the other party works consciously to keep you, if they want to keep you. If they want you to go, they'll do work in such a way that you have to leave. So I think that the workable formula is that people should be able to decide.
Okay. Yes. Let me come to Mr. Mungwa. The Foumban conference moved to the Yaoundé tripartite conference because the follow-up was in the Yaoundé tripartite conference, which was expected that degrees, there will be legality, as Senior Barrister Ashu articulated, that things will be signed, the constitution will be signed. Remember that in the Foumban conference, there was no virtual agreement signed somewhere. Well, that's why some group of people are saying that there's no union treaty. Coming back to that, move to resolution 1608, but that's a topic for another day, because next week Sunday I want us to look at the 1972 referendum, because that should be the basis on that we should be moving forward. How legal was it, or what's the way forward as far as that is concerned? But Mr. Mungwa, on the federal constitution, the tripartite conference in 1961, the first point was that the federation will go operational as of 1st October 1961. The Aijo and Foncha will be president and vice president respectively, and there's a provision which stated that there would be a federal legislature of 50 members comprising 40 from the Republic of Cameroon National Assembly and 10 from Southern Cameroon House of Assembly, and the provision of the federal constitution will remain operational until 1st April 1961, upon which it will not be changed. And if the form of the federation has to be changed, that there's a strong provision for that. And we are talking about decentralization now. Is it not because of the failed policy of, or the failed premise that we had with the Foumban conference that has caused this cacophony of people struggling not to want to use the word federation and using the word decentralization and not fully implementing? You are of the Tuba Council.
Yes, I am of the Tuba Municipal Council, and I would want to add my voice again to what the legal minds have been saying here. And our televiewers still insist, my humble opinion, when you look the collective factors which transpired within the Foumban conference, you will find the negative and the positive views which are welcoming to others, and others will equally differ. This transpired under the regime of President Majo Ahijo, and President Pobia today was a young administrator by then, and I am appealing and calling on President Pobia,
the chairman,
yes, to allow a legacy. If he is stepping down tomorrow or whensoever, that he should review. We should not be talking about the Foumban conference anymore.
Is that a sign? Is that a sign to say that?
No, please, Jabez, permit me land.
No, I just want to throw. I don't want you to clarify the air, because Barrister Nkia, you said something and he threw something on the floor. Are you by sign calling for the president to resign or saying that he's failing?
I am not calling
need for a change of regime.
No, that is not what I mean here. I am calling on and appealing on my party chairman. He was a young administrator by the time President Amado Ahijo presided over the Foumban conference. And today he is the father and #1 citizen of Cameroon. What legacy is he putting in place? He has done a lot, but I'm still appealing. I think next tomorrow, we should be talking about the Renovative United Cameroon Conference.
Okay, so you are proposing another conference, the Renovative.
Yes.
Meaning that the major national dialogue was not renovative enough, that we have the accelerated decentralization?
I have said it on this platform, time without number, that an inclusive, genuine dialogue should be organized. I've said that time without number.
Slowly but surely coming to an end.
Honestly speaking, so so far regarding all the collective factors and ideologies which led to the Foumban conference, which we are actually talking here today, I think the way forward, we should be looking on the way forward. And I have this ideology and proposal of a renovative United Cameroon, which President Paul Biya should put in place. And secondly, I'm also appealing on the ceasefire.
What is innovative conference? That is, you should tell us what you think about. What should be the content? What should they discuss there?
Yeah, so far, I mean, we're talking about democracy, and if we're talking about democracy, is bringing a democratic approach to the doorsteps of the Cameroonians. We were talking here on the platform based on the House of Commons, which I think every stakeholder.
Yes,
and you are right.
Yes.
It's not on our side.
Let me bring one fact. You see, we are this controversial. We accept the federal constitution that never went through a federal referendum. We accept it. A group of people sit and decide federal constitution.
But they have still.
We say that's a
school of thought that says
when is a referendum? When is a referendum? They say it's a fraud.
Because
you see, that's where we don't get it right.
Somebody like Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel said the federal constitution was just a fraud because it was not. It was a constitution from the Republic of Cameroon, which was not a constitution from the Southern Cameroon. Cameroon never had that.
I don't want to use that
word.
So
they are still.
When you use the word fraud, that is what excites. That's what excites people over nothing. Frankly speaking, that constitution never went to the Southern Cameroon Parliament. Frankly speaking, it was signed by those President Ijo and Prime Minister John Gufoncha. Frankly speaking, there was no referendum. That's sanctioned.
Are you suggesting that?
Frankly speaking,
yes.
The only time the people of Southern Cameroon have ever been consulted were the 11 February 1961 plebiscite and the 20 May 1972 referendum. Never again. But along the line, I see people challenge the legality of the referendum where people are consulted than what people do in Parliament. People seem to prefer what a group of people sit down and think to put in place for everybody to accept. And that's where our problem is. Like now, okay, we are now a decentralized unit whereby you find out every councillor comes from a quartier or from a village. We don't use the opportunity to push forward the idea, because if you understand that Frontier and Mona in those days was just a decentralized unit of Nigeria. We still have the same thing now. Instead of profiting or benefiting from these circumstances, to push forward what we want. We are not using it, we challenge it.
Briefly, I know we don't have time. I know we have about 2 minutes to conclude, but briefly, let me just ask you this. Amunga raised an issue, which is the issue that he wants a conference, a new conference. But the Yaoundé Tripartite Conference, till where we are now, Senior Barrister Ashu, will you agree with because you are talking about the issue of legality? Are you indirectly giving the green light to the separatists who say there is no legality, and by law, which is a legal mind, if there is no legality, we should go back and look at the legality and adjust so that we move forward? I can never join the separatists because they decide to take a gun. No, I'm talking about the as you pick up guns to me, I can never talk on their behalf. In any case, everybody has a right to his opinion. Okay. And we should learn to respect that. To me, today, as I'm saying, we have a special status. It is for us to seize it and make it look what we want it to look like. What is the special status? The only thing is that everybody is saying, what is the special status? We are supposed to make that status special. Not some other person, not the government, not the political party. Because, let me tell you something, because in the councils, we have everybody from each village, or even from even the big town, from each quartier. Go and check it out. So it means it is possible to get the idea from the grassroots right to where it matters. Instead of using the opportunity,
We now challenge this special status. Now, what is it?
Okay.
And we prefer the special status that we had with Nigeria in the 60s.
Briefly, maybe you react on this so that we can conclude.
I would say that this whole idea of decentralization is another farce, because before the whole idea of decentralization, we still had council, with councillors who were also coming from the cartiers. What has changed? That has made this.
You say now there is a special status.
What is the special status?
We are supposed to make it special.
I mean, what is it?
A legal man can be asking the question. Not,
yes,
you cannot.
Because
I prefer somebody from the that enters not you.
No, that is what I'm saying.
The status.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's the idea.
It is nothing.
You give me the status.
It is nothing. It is just another phrase.
The special status is provided for by the Constitution. First of all, you know that. It is provided for by the Article 62.
That is not what we are. I'm not saying that is helpful, but so I'm asking you that what is special in Southwest and Northwest that gives them the House of Chiefs?
No, in the 60s.
No.
I mean that is what is there. Special. What is it?
No, what is it? Administration. Let me
finish. I'm just trying to say that it is another farce. It's another farce. We have, if this country must work, we must come back to the drawing table. And I said this before, that federalism worked. It worked well. The reasons for suppressing federalism was not that the people were not consulted. That was not the reason. So this we are just trying to imagine to give more reasons for why the fraud of 72 took place. The whole idea that Ahijo argued was that it was expensive to manage. Now we have 10 regional assemblies. Then there were just 2 or 3. The Federal Assembly and 2.
10 regional presidents.
Yeah. Now we have 10.
No, there are only 2 regional assemblies and 2 regional councils. Let me get the 2. What we have west of the Mongo is different from what we have east of the Mongo.
So east of the Mongo, what do you call them?
Regional councils.
Yeah, but it's the same thing now.
We have regional assemblies.
What I'm saying, what I'm saying, Barrister Ashu, is that these regional councils are they not in the form of an assembly? No. People meet there and discuss. What do they do there?
Yes, of course they are.
Ah,
it's an assembly.
It's an assembly.
Yeah.
The special stages we had in with Nigeria is almost the same thing we have now.
Yeah.
Okay, you refuse it.
But the regional assembly has not even had their first ordinary session since when they were voted till now.
Yes, yes.
Some have.
Yes, some have already. We can.
Some councils are meeting.
No, what I'm saying, my point, the point I was making is that. The point I was making is that if in 72 Ahijo argued that it was expensive to manage the West Cameroon House of Assembly and the East Cameroon House together with the federal legislature, we are saying that, okay, just take only Northwest and Southwest. They have 2 regional assemblies, plus the National Assembly, plus Senate. Put the war on it. Which is more expensive now? Why is it not logical? Barrister Ashu, you did not take part with us when we went to the streets in 2016.
I'm not resident there.
Yes.
We were in Douala when I came there.
I said we
were in Douala. We have a
So when we went to the streets in 2016, we were asking a return because we believe that that was the only thing that could pacify, break the ice. They said we could talk anything, but not the form of the state. Right? The Prime Minister came down, made us talk to people. They say anything, but don't talk about the form of the state. And we are saying that we must talk about the form of the state.
And we are talking about it now.
Yes, we must talk about it. And we are asking that a dispensation that will work for this country is one that takes us back at least to 61.
Because we have it.
Yes.
It is in the Constitution.
No, we are not in 61. We are not in 61. We should go back to 61.
That poverty that we had in 1972, we don't have it now. The country is rich enough to manage what they have. That's the difference. You understand that?
Yes. There's no time. I really would have loved that we had time. There's no time. Next week Sunday we'll look at the 1972 referendum. If any member here may have time, you can join the team because we have Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, and I'm sure we'll equally have some other persons. But before we take leave of you people all here, maybe your last word, Senior Barrister Ashu, before we go. I think The last conclusive word, where do we go from here? Because we've seen that you said there was not legality of a representative of the Foumban conference from Southern Cameroonians, and that we were still a decentralized state from the Nigeria, though a quasi-state with an assembly, and that based on this, we should look forward from 1972 and make the regional council work and look at the special status and make it special. Maybe, how do we make it special? Your last word.
My problem is that the first thing is that all of us agree that in the 60s, the Southern Cameroons was better. It was a decentralized area managed by us in a particular degree. We have the same possibilities now. Why can't we seize it and use it? You see, in politics, to me, they usually say half a bread is better than nothing. When once you go for the national cake, you can get a piece of it, take it first, and say, I want some more. Don't say, no, I'm not taking it unless you give me half. Take it first and say, I want some more. And while you're trying to get that more, at the same time, you're bringing development to your people. That's how we do in politics. Not that we just say no, and when you say no, everybody who doesn't agree with you is an enemy. We should stop that.
Okay.
We should pacify ourselves and agree to disagree. Say, look, I know that this man doesn't share my ideology, but every day I see you, I will say, good morning. I will talk to you. I will not see you and tell you about because you and me don't agree.
The force of argument, not the argument of force.
Yeah. Not even that. I don't want to go to argument. I don't want you to go there. But I want to say that all of us love our country, or Southern Cameroon, Northern Cameroon, Center, whatever, at the same level. Okay. But let nobody think that he loves my own village more than me.
Okay.
Until he tells me that what he wants from my village, I should accept it or he kills me. That should stop.
No, but Barrister Ashu, you see,
you conclude. Let me, Mr. Mungwa, you have the time to react on your own conclusion. Mr. Mungwa, last one before we take leave of you.
Yeah, I'm still
because we're out of time.
Yeah, I'm still of the opinion that we shouldn't. It's true that the Foumban conference they played their role. They allowed history. And that is what we are trying to revise today. And if we are revising, we come up with revisions for a renovative way forward.
Okay.
That's what the 21st century requires of us. So we should not embark much on the Foumban conference. What is the way forward? I mean, we should be looking.
Conference?
Yes, whenever comes to put in place a ceasefire and get back our economies booming.
Well, you're telling your chairman that you should call for a ceasefire.
But of course, we need a ceasefire. I said this. We need a ceasefire. We need the Cameroon economy to get back to the problem. Oh yeah, on the ceasefire.
For me, if I may say something, I just want to say that if we are where we are, it's not big. People didn't get up one morning and went to the bush with guns. That is not true. You know, Barrister Ashu, that there has been a build-up. There was something called Cameroon Anglophone Movement. There was AAC1. People were talking. They were talking. And the government refused to listen. There was AAC2. They refused to listen. Right? Then the lawyers stepped in. They refused to listen. And then some boys went into the bush. Violence is a form of agitation. It's a form of agitation, whether we like it or not. This is not the... No, I said, no, I'm saying that whether we like it or not, there are countries that have been independent today or that have achieved some form of better democracy because some people took up arms.
Yeah,
we know.
They're
still fighting. So what we are saying is that
this last word. There's no time.
So we can say that we don't like.
We know the middle course.
That is our opinion.
Let him conclude.
But I think that if they have been given the opportunity to talk, if the government had been courageous enough to organize that small referendum in Southern Cameroon, we will not be where we are today.
Thank you very much, Council. Your last word, Andy, before we go briefly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Barrister Nkea, for coming. It's been a privilege to have you. We appreciate.
Thank you, Jarvis.
Maybe take our greetings to the people of Boya.
They used to call it legendary, the town legend of hospitality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mungwa, for coming.
Yeah, thanks once more. And We look forward in enjoying our United Cameroon.
An innovative conference.
Eventually.
Thank you very much, Senior Vice. Thank you very much, Senior Vice.
I would like to thank my media prime for bringing up such topics for us to educate ourselves on issues that many people never understood. And I would like an appeal on the government to subsidize my media prime, because I don't see why this is the best English TV channel which is not being subsidized by the state. It is, we know, we of the English expression would like to talk what we feel.
Yeah.
And for the state to understand it better, a TV station like this needs to be given the possibility of going further. Because I would have loved that my media prime goes into an Ambazonian camp and talk to those people. I would have loved that. Let them see
and bring it on air.
And bring it on air. Let people see it. I would have loved that those who feel slighted should come up and talk. Listen. But at the same time,
that's Anglo-Saxon culture.
In this world, we're not forced to be on the same page.
That's
we can disagree. Yeah. But I should get up in the morning, this part of disagreement, and tell you, good morning.
Okay.
How are you?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All those of you who took our time to watch the program, once again, thank you. We apologize that we started late. And next week edition, we'll be looking at the 1972 referendum. We'll be looking at the 1972 referendum. What went wrong, what went right, what should we do in terms of moving forward. Every Sunday at exactly 12 to 1:30 is the program. Rebroadcast every Sunday at 10:30, a rebroadcast of this same program, and a rebroadcast on Monday at 9:30, a rebroadcast on Monday at 9:30. It is on our YouTube channel, BT Media Group, on our YouTube channel, BT Media Group, on our Facebook page, My Media Prime. You can visit us on www.btmediagroup.net. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from the town of Douala. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter.